Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going deep into the world of outlaw motorcycle clubs. The real deal, man? We're talking about the baddest dudes on two wheels. The one percenters who live by their own code and ain't afraid of anything. We're not talking about your weekend poker run groups here. These are serious organizations with chapters all over the world, and they're involved in some seriously heavy stuff. Think drug trafficking, arms dealing, you name it. So over the next hour, we're gonna break down the top 5 most dangerous biker clubs in America and Canada. We'll dig into their history, their notorious activities, and the impact they have on the world today. So grab a drink, get comfortable, and get ready for a wild ride. Because this is some real deal gritty stuff. This is the world of outlaw motorcycle clubs. First up, we got to start with the granddaddies of them all, the Hells Angels. Founded in 1948 in San Bernardino, California, these guys are the original outlaw biker club. Post-World War II vets formed a brotherhood, hopped up on adrenaline and freedom. Named after a World War II bomber group, they weren't messing around. All about brotherhood, loyalty, and living life on their own terms. Linked to criminal activity, but also involved in charity work. Make no mistake, they're one of the most dangerous biker gangs in the world. Now, if you want to talk about infamous Hells Angels moments, you got to talk about the Altamont Free Concert in 1969. This was supposed to be the Woodstock of the West, man, with the Rolling Stones headlining. The Angels were hired as security, which in retrospect was a terrible idea. The vibes were off from the start. The crowd was massive, off their faces on whatever they could get their hands on, and the Angels were, let's just say, not equipped to handle it. It was a recipe for disaster. During the Stones' set, a fight broke out in the crowd near the stage. A guy named Meredith Hunter pulled out a gun and, well, he was stabbed to death by a Hells Angel. The whole thing was caught on film, and it became a symbol of the dark side of the counterculture movement. The Altamont incident really cemented the Hells Angels' reputation as a violent and dangerous organization. It showed the world that these guys weren't just a bunch of harmless bikers, they were a force to be reckoned with. Now, the Hells Angels aren't just an American phenomenon, they're a global organization with chapters all over the world, from Canada and Europe to Australia and South America. They're like the McDonald's of outlaw motorcycle clubs, man. They're everywhere and they're not afraid to flex their muscle. They've been involved in turf wars with rival gangs like the Bandidos and the Outlaws, and those conflicts can get seriously violent. We're talking shootouts, bombings, the whole 9 yards. The Hells Angels are a powerful organization with a lot of influence and a lot of money. They control a lot of the illegal drug trade, and they're involved in all sorts of other criminal activities. They're not a group you want to mess with, but despite their reputation, the Hells Angels continue to thrive. They're a brotherhood bound by loyalty and a shared love of motorcycles and freedom. They're a force to be reckoned with, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Next up, we're heading over to Southern California, where we've got the Mongols Motorcycle Club. Formed in the late 60s in East Los Angeles by Hispanic Vietnam vets denied entry into the Hells Angels. So they started their own club. They took the name Mongols and quickly gained a tough reputation, known for drug trafficking, especially meth. Constantly on law enforcement's radar, willing to use violence to protect their turf. They're like the honey badger of biker gangs. Speaking of turf wars, the Mongols have a particularly nasty rivalry with the Hells Angels. It's like the Lakers and the Celtics, man, but with a lot more violence. These two clubs have been at each other's throats for decades, and the bad blood runs deep. There have been countless brawls, shootings and bombings between these two clubs. In 2002, a Mongol was stabbed to death by a Hells Angel at a casino in Laughlin, Nevada. And in 2008, a Hells Angel was shot and killed at a biker rally in Nevada, and a Mongol was later convicted of the murder. The rivalry between these two clubs is fueled by a number of factors, including territory, drug profits, and just plain old-fashioned hatred. It's a dangerous game they're playing, and it seems like there's no end in sight. And the thing is, these conflicts aren't just contained to the clubs themselves. They can spill over into the public, putting innocent people at risk. It's like a wildfire, man. Once it gets going, it's hard to contain. Now, the Mongols aren't just on the radar of local law enforcement, they've attracted the attention of the feds. And in 2008, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, or ATF, launched a massive operation called Operation Black Rain, targeting the club. This was a huge deal, man. The ATF infiltrated the Mongols, planning undercover agents and informants within their ranks. They spent years gathering evidence of the club's criminal activities, and when they were ready to pounce, they swooped in with a vengeance. The operation resulted in the arrest of over 70 Mongols and associates on charges ranging from drug trafficking to racketeering to murder. It was a major blow to the club, but as we know, these guys are resilient. Despite the setbacks, the Mongols are still out there, operating in the shadows. They're a reminder that the world of outlaw motorcycle clubs is a dangerous and violent one, and it's not going away anytime soon. All right, so we're talking about the baddest of the bad, the most notorious biker gangs in America and Canada. And man, the Outlaws, they're right up there. These guys, they didn't just pop up overnight. Their roots go way back, all the way to 1935. And get this, McCook, Illinois. Can you imagine that? McCook, Illinois, being the birthplace of this hardcore motorcycle club. Wild, right? So back then, it was all about brotherhood, camaraderie, guys who loved riding their bikes and living life on their own terms. But things changed, man. The world changed. By the 1960s, the Outlaws were evolving, becoming more than just a bunch of dudes who liked to ride. They were developing a reputation, and it wasn't always a good one. They were getting into scraps, throwing down with other clubs, and dabbling in activities that were, let's just say, a little less than legal. And that's when things started to get really interesting. Now, we got to be careful here, not glorifying any of this stuff. But the Outlaws, they were deep in the game. They were involved in everything from drug trafficking to racketeering, extortion, you name it. They weren't afraid to get their hands dirty, and they built up a network that stretched across state lines. And these guys, they weren't afraid of anyone. They went toe-to-toe with some of the biggest names in the biker world, including, you guessed it, the Hells Angels. Those rivalries, man, they were legendary. Brutal fights, bombings, shootings. It was like something out of a movie, but it was all too real. The Outlaws, they had this reputation for being ruthless, for being the guys you didn't want to mess with. They earned that reputation, and they wore it like a badge of honor. And it wasn't just talk, man. They were linked to some serious crimes, some brutal acts that landed a lot of their members behind bars. One of the most insane stories about the Outlaws has got to be the River Run riot back in 2002. Imagine this, hundreds of bikers, outlaws and Hells Angels facing off in a casino parking lot in Nevada. It was absolute chaos, man. People were brawling, knives were pulled, guns were fired. One outlaw even rode his bike right through the casino. The feds had to get involved, and it turned into this massive investigation. It just goes to show you the level these guys operated on. They weren't afraid of the law. They were practically at war with it, and their rivalry with the Hells Angels, it's still going strong today. They've clashed all over the world, from Canada to Australia. The Outlaws, they're more than just a biker gang, man. They're a force to be reckoned with, a brotherhood built on loyalty, violence, and a whole lot of illegal activities. They're a reminder that there's a dark side to the open road, a world where the rules are different and the stakes are incredibly high. All right, folks, we're moving on to number 4 on our list of the most intense biker clubs out there, the Bandidos. These guys are the real deal. Founded in Texas in 1966, Vietnam War era, founder Donald Chambers admired Mexican bandits. They took that outlaw image and ran with it, expanded rapidly across the states, then they went international. Europe, Australia, Asia, everywhere. Now, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, the criminal activities associated with the Bandidos. And man, we're talking serious stuff here. Drug trafficking, arms dealing, extortion, you name it. They were like a well-oiled machine operating under the radar, but leaving a trail of chaos in their wake. Think about it, man. These guys had a network spanning continents. They had the manpower, the connections, and the ruthlessness to compete with some of the biggest criminal organizations out there. It was like a biker empire built on brotherhood and bad intentions, and they weren't afraid to use violence to protect their turf and their business. We're talking about some seriously brutal stuff. Shootings, bombings, kidnappings, you name it, they were allegedly involved. This wasn't a club you wanted to mess with. This combination of criminal enterprise and extreme violence put them on the radar of law enforcement agencies worldwide. The bandidos became a prime target, with authorities trying to infiltrate their ranks and bring them down from the inside. One event that really put the bandidos on the map and showed just how far they were willing to go was the Waco biker shootout in 2015. Imagine this, hundreds of bikers from different clubs, all armed to the teeth, meeting up at a restaurant in Waco, Texas. Now the bandidos were there, and so were their rivals, the Cossacks. Tensions were high, man. There was bad blood between these groups, and everyone knew it could erupt at any moment. And sure enough, it did. What started as a brawl in the bathroom escalated into a full-blown gunfight. People were shooting, bikes were crashing, chaos everywhere. By the time the dust settled, 9 people were dead and dozens were injured. The Waco showdown was a bloodbath, man. It shocked the nation and brought the issue of biker gang violence to the forefront. It also led to a massive crackdown on the bandidos and other clubs, with law enforcement agencies working overtime to dismantle their operations. All right, last but not least, we got number 5 on our list. The Sons of Silence, founded in Colorado in 1966, the same year as the Bandidos, drawn together by a love of motorcycles, brotherhood, and a distrust of authority. The name Sons of Silence was a big middle finger to the establishment. Known for being incredibly secretive, they keep their business close to the vest. Operating mainly in Colorado, Wyoming, and South Dakota, they blend in. They could be your neighbor, but beneath that exterior is a whole lot of darkness. Now, when it comes to the Sons of Silence's criminal activities, we're talking about a group that's as calculated as it is brutal. They're involved in all the usual suspects, drug trafficking, gun running, extortion, but they're known for their meticulous planning and execution. These guys are like ghosts, man. They move silently, strike swiftly, and vanish before anyone knows what hit them. This makes them incredibly difficult to track and even harder to prosecute. They cover their tracks, intimidate witnesses, and maintain a code of silence that would make a vault look like a chatterbox. And when it comes to violence, the Sons of Silence are no joke. They have a reputation for being particularly ruthless in dealing with rivals and anyone who crosses them. We're talking about some seriously hardcore individuals who don't hesitate to use violence to get their way. There have been numerous cases over the years linking members to assaults, kidnappings, and even murders. The problem is it's hard to get concrete evidence. These guys are masters of their craft, and they rarely leave witnesses or evidence behind. One of the things that makes the Sons of Silence so fascinating and terrifying is their ability to maintain such a low profile despite their criminal activities. They're like a whisper in the wind, man, always present but rarely seen. They've been linked to several high-profile cases over the years, but their secretive nature makes it difficult to pin down exactly what went down. It's like trying to catch smoke, man. They're elusive, and that's what makes them so dangerous. But make no mistake, their impact on the biker world and the criminal underworld is undeniable. They may operate in the shadows, but their presence is always felt. They are a reminder that sometimes the quietest players are the ones you need to watch out for the most. The Sons of Silence are a testament to the enduring allure of the outlaw lifestyle. They represent the dark side of the American dream, where freedom and brotherhood are intertwined with violence and crime. Well, there you have it, folks. Our rundown of the top 5 most dangerous biker clubs in America and Canada. These are groups with long histories, complex structures, and a whole lot of baggage. Remember, this is just a glimpse into their world, and there's a lot more to these clubs than meets the eye. It's important to remember that not everyone involved in these clubs is a hardened criminal. There are guys who just love to ride, who are drawn to the brotherhood and camaraderie. But there's no denying that these clubs have a dark side, one that's steeped in violence and criminal activity. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of outlaw biker clubs, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And if you have any crazy biker stories, share them in the comments section below. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and always be aware of your surroundings. Peace out.